Are you applying for US citizenship and you're nervous about your interview and you're wondering what to expect? If so, then this video will walk you through step by step what to expect during your US citizenship interview, how to prepare, and how to show up confident that you can pass all the exams involved in your interview process. I'm immigration attorney Kalani Hawks Villafranca. I have a U.S. immigration law firm based in Texas, serving clients across the world for their U.S. immigration needs. I have guided my clients through the U.S. citizenship interview process, and I know that my clients are always very nervous. It's a really big deal. It's a really impactful thing in your life, and you're going to be nervous on the day of your interview, even if you think you may not. I've had clients say, I didn't know I was going to be that nervous. I felt a lot more nervous than I thought I would. And so the best thing you can do is show up very prepared, because when you're prepared, then even if you find yourself nervous and worried, and you'll still be able to provide the information you need to provide and get through the interview successfully because you've prepared well. So what's going to happen on the day of your interview? Well, let's back up even before that. After you filed your case with immigration, you will, when your case is ready, get a letter in the mail that has the date and time and location for your interview. Make sure you review that carefully and you show up to the right place. Don't assume it's the same place you went before. Don't assume that USCIS sent you to the office you thought they were going to send you to. So make sure you know where you're going. Show up early. When you get to your USCIS field office, you'll have to check in and go through security, just like you're going to an airport. There will be a metal detector and you'll have to take your keys out of your pocket. So you want to go dressed in a way that doesn't make you have to take off a bunch of things to get through the metal detector. Maybe leave all your bracelets at home so you don't have to worry about that. So now's the time to think about your outfit. When you get through security, you will take your interview notice letter to the front desk and you'll check in and you'll let them know that you're here for your interview. They will give you a number and send you to a waiting room. Now, each office is different. And particularly with COVID, we've seen a lot of changes in how offices are handling the check-in process. So for example, in the middle of COVID, the San Antonio field office, which is closest to my home office, so a lot of my clients go there, San Antonio was sending people back to their cars to wait when COVID was really bad because they didn't want people in the office. So these procedures change from time to time. Don't get flustered at this if this isn't exactly what happens for you, but you'll check in and then you'll go somewhere to wait your turn. When it is your turn, your number will be called and you will go back to a private office with a USCIS immigration official to prepare for your interview. Occasionally, these interviews take place at a window, kind of in an open public room, but almost always they take place in a private office. So that's what I would expect if I were you. When you get there, the officer will ask for your name and ask for some identification to make sure that you are who you are. And then they will get started. The first thing they usually ask the attorney is, do you have any new information to share? Is there anything that's changed or updated about the application? So now's the time to share that. If they don't ask you and there is something that has changed, like your address, your employment, if you made a mistake on your form, make sure you tell them before you get through the interview process, because you want to make sure everything is accurate during that process. Okay, so if you have any new information, you'll share that. Then typically what happens is they start with the exam portion of the interview. The officer can do whatever they want, but most commonly they start with the exam, because if you don't pass the exam, you can't get your citizenship. So there's no reason to do the other part of the interview. So what exam is involved in the citizenship process? Well, first, there's the civics exam, which is a test of your knowledge of US government. Then there's an English exam, both reading and writing. So to pass the civics exam, you will be asked 10 questions. You have to get 6 of them right to pass. How do you prepare? On the USCIS website, under the citizenship section, you can actually find a list of all the questions you could possibly be asked. It's a list of 100 questions. Of those 100, you will get 10. You have to answer 6 correctly. Now, if you meet certain criteria, you actually have a shorter list of questions you have to study, but for most people, it'll be that 100 question list and you have to get 6 right. You should start studying the moment you file your application so that you have plenty of time to study. You can download a study guide off the USCIS website and just study that from time to time. Now, The next test is the English exam. To get your citizenship, you have to prove that you have a basic level of understanding, reading, and writing in English. You don't have to be perfect in English, but you do have to be able to have a basic conversation. And that's tested in 3 ways: reading, writing, and then talking to you during your interview. So the officer will give you a sentence in English to read out loud. Then they will ask you to write down a sentence that they say out loud. So you'll hear them say it and you'll write down the sentence. It does not have to be perfect. Small spelling mistakes are fine. I've had my clients write down things that aren't exactly perfect and the officer says, that's close enough. I can tell that you understood what I mean. But as good as you can do it, as well as you can do it, is what you want to do. So that's the English portion of the test. You actually can study for that one too with guides from USCIS. On the USCIS website, they have a list of reading vocabulary and writing vocabulary that they suggest that you know, and so you can expect that those words will appear in your test. I also highly recommend, if you are at all concerned about your English level, that you enroll in English classes specifically for the citizenship test. There are many online and in-person classes, English classes available for people specifically to pass the English portion of their citizenship test. So you should find one in your area or online and start that as soon as you can if you have any concern about your English level. Now, if you've passed your civics test and you've passed your English reading and writing, the only thing left is to go over your application with the officer. The officer will go page by page through your application and they'll ask you questions about it to make sure you are who you say you are and that there are no problems. So they may ask, where do you live? Where were you born? Who are you married to? How many children do you have? Anything that appears on your application is fair game and you should be able to talk about it. And this is another way the officer will test your English. So if they're concerned, even if you've passed the reading and writing, if they're concerned that your English level isn't very strong, then they're going to ask you questions about your application and make sure that you understand them and can respond to them. So you need to be sure you can talk about anything that appears on your application. So now, we have done the civics test, the English test, reading and writing. We've talked about your application. What's left? The only thing left, if there are no issues with your application, are for the officer to ask you the qualifying questions. There are some questions at the end of your application that you will have to swear to in order to become a U.S. citizen. Things like, do you promise to bear arms on behalf of the United States if you need to? Do you promise to swear off allegiances to all other countries? That one's a little bit silly because the US allows you to have dual citizenship. But in the event of a conflict, you have to swear that the US is your ultimate loyalty and you will fight for the US. So things like this that are not very specific, but are very steeped in tradition and meaning, and you will have to swear your allegiance to the United States before you are granted citizenship to the United States. So if you've made it all the way through that interview process, then a couple things can happen. The officer can say, 1, I'm recommending your case for approval. Or 2, I can't decide this right now. I need to hold on and do some more research and see if I can approve your case. Or 3, I'm going to fail you based on your English and you need to come back in a couple months and try again. So if you are recommended for approval, what will happen is that shortly after you should get official notice in email notification or in the mail that your case has been approved, and you'll be scheduled for an oath ceremony where you'll go and you'll swear allegiance to the United States and you'll become a U.S. citizen at that moment. You're not a citizen when you leave your interview. Not until your oath ceremony do you become a citizen. If your case is held for more information, what that means is that there's something about your application the officer didn't feel comfortable making a decision on right then. They may need to speak with their supervisor, they may need to do more research. Generally, you'll know what that is, and hopefully you and your attorney have prepared ahead of time to respond to questions about that. If it's criminal history or issues with taxes or anything concerning in your case, hopefully that's something you're aware of ahead of time. They could ask for more information at this point in time, or they could just take some more time to decide. And then last but not least, if you fail because of your English level and your English is not strong enough in the opinion of the officer, then you're not done yet. Your case isn't over. They give you a couple months to study and come back. This is the only way that you get to redo your interview if you fail. So if you fail your application or your application is denied for any other reason, then the only recourse is refiling if you can later prove that you're eligible. But if you fail because your English isn't strong enough, you get a second chance. So if you weren't quite able to pass the English portion, then you'll leave. They'll tell you your English isn't strong enough today. We're going to reschedule you, and you'll get a notice of a second interview. And so you'll be able to come back and just do those portions of the English exam or the conversation that you weren't able to pass the first time. And then that's your time to study, because you want to be ready for the second round. So that's it. And then you'll be done. And hopefully you've gotten an approval on your case and you'll show up to your oath ceremony. It's really lovely. The oath ceremonies are often held in public spaces like parks, libraries, big convention centers, other meaningful spaces in the community. And it's really beautiful to be able to be a part of those. So I really encourage you to bring family and friends if you can. If your attorney is able to go, that's great. They're really beautiful and meaningful ceremonies. And so hopefully you will be at one of them very soon. I wish you best of luck in your case, and it's been a pleasure talking to you today. Bye-bye.